Well, I like to start off with something fun. And there's 2-year-old Sarah and her daughter, or excuse me, 2-year-old Sarah and her 13-year-old sister were fighting and arguing with each other. And it was just before Christmas. Can you imagine? And Sarah came home from school. It was the last day of school before summer, or before, you know what I'm talking about. Just read my mind, will you? Before Christmas vacation. And Sarah's mother said, "You know, Sarah, you've been fighting with your sister a lot. And Santa doesn't like it so much when girls and sisters fight." And so she picked up the phone and she dialed Santa Claus. And Sarah was like, "Oh my gosh, her eyes were like this big." And her mom was on the phone and she says, "Hello, is this Santa?" And this voice says, "Yes, this is Santa Claus." And she says, "Well, Santa, I have to tell you, my daughter Sarah hasn't been so good this year." And Santa was like, "Oh, let me talk to her." So Sarah's on the phone and Santa Claus says, "Sarah, you haven't been so good, you've been fighting." And Sarah's like, And he says, "You need to really change your behavior. You need to be a good girl. I can't bring presents to girls who are fighting." And Sarah's like, The conversation ends and she puts the phone down. And her mother says, "So honey, what did Santa say to you?" And Sarah said, very matter-of-factly, "Santa said that he's not bringing any gifts to my sister." Isn't that just like a 2-year-old? One of my favorite memories from Christmas is Christmas Tree Lane in Long Beach, California. Anybody ever been there? It's about a 2 or 3 block area where the neighborhood all chips in and they put up all these beautiful Christmas decorations. And people drive down the drive really slowly, and there's beautiful decorations on houses and on the median in the street, and as well as beautiful depictions of the Christmas story. And we used to go to this every year. It was a tradition for my family. In fact, my dad would make hot chocolate and put it in thermoses, and my mom would make fresh chocolate chip cookies. You know, the kind where you bite into them and the chocolate like runs down your chin, right? And it's all warm and they're soft and they're gushy. And so we would drive around Christmas Tree Lane and look at these beautiful decorations. And it would start off with the star, and then the angel speaking to Mary, and the wise men, and the shepherds. And then when you got all the way around, there'd be a beautiful manger scene with 3-dimensional characters and all kinds of beautiful light, and Joseph and Mary, and the baby Jesus in a manger. And it was so beautiful. I can feel it in my heart how much that memory means to me. And it seems to me that when I look around and when I look here and I look around Maui and I see all of the decorations, don't you kind of feel it? Do you feel it like in your soul there's something that lights up? And I believe that life is light-oriented. Yes? We eat food that's fed by light. We wake up to light. We enjoy fireplace light and campfire light and the light of the stars. We have a natural attraction to light, don't we? And you know why that is, yes? Because we are light. Our very essence is light. That's who we are meant to be, the light of the world. And I believe that's why this season, this time resonates so much with us, is because we recognize ourselves in that light. You know, the world, if we look at it this way can seem to be a dark place if we look at it and pay attention to the constant negative news at CNN, or the other things that the media tells us about. We can tend to think that this is a pretty dark world and a dark time. But I believe that the opposite is true. How about you? We see what we believe. And I believe that our job as bearers of the light is to see the light and to contribute in ways that we can to bringing that light to this world. And we can do that. There's been numerous people, regular people like us, who have made a difference in the world. Recently, I discovered a story about this young man. His name is Gregory Smith from Pennsylvania. And he created an organization called International Youth Advocates. And it's about creating sustainable development programs for children at risk. And he was just a young man, not even a teenager, when he came up with this idea. He said, there really is only one choice. We must hear the cries of the children and answer their prayers. He's been nominated for 2 Nobel Peace Prizes. He's met with famous dignitaries from around the world, and he's an ordinary person who has a vision for himself and for us. Jesus said, "You are the light of the world." You are the light of the world. You are. And you are. All of us are the light of the world. Jesus really only taught 2 things: love and forgiveness. He said, you should love God and love others as yourself. And to me, loving God means that you love life, that you love everyone, and that you demonstrate that love in all that you do, yes? Yes. And to love your neighbor as yourself, what do you have to do first? You have to love yourself. And that's often a challenge for all of us to really embrace and love ourselves. Because we can't really love anyone else until we really love ourselves. And the other thing that Jesus taught, the main teaching, was forgiveness. And in the same way, I believe that he said, forgive God. I know that I had grudges against God for a long time for taking both of my parents away from me when I was young. And I was angry at God for a long time. And I finally, when I was able to get over that and forgive God for the wrong that I perceived was done to me, I was able to love myself and forgive myself for the mistakes that I sometimes make. Do you ever make mistakes? Ever? No. Who said that? It was you, Nick, wasn't it? Well, you know, we all do that. We hold grudges against ourselves, don't we? We get angry at ourselves. And what if we could just say, oh, you made a mistake, and let it go? Then I know that innately in our behavior, when we can do that, we'll do the same thing with our neighbors and our friends, won't we? To forgive them. I think it's interesting that love and forgiveness are like 2 sides of the same coin. It's really not possible to fully love unless we can fully forgive. And the other way too, we can't fully forgive unless we can fully love. And have you ever noticed that it's sometimes difficult to love? Anybody? Well, 3 of you. Well, that's good. I'm glad. I think that the most difficult chore, challenging chore, awakening chore that we have is to be able to love. Such a simple thing. But can you imagine a world where everyone loved each other? Such a simple, simple truth and such a simple teaching with profound results. And isn't that why we're here? To be the light of the world, to be the love of the world, to be the peace in the world, to be the promise in the world. I love this Christmas story. It has simple symbolism but it's about us. The Christmas story is about you. It is about me. The star in the Christmas story that the shepherds followed, the wise men followed, is the star of our intuition. It's that star of that part of us that knows the truth of who we are and draws us into the places where we can discover our truth. And we can be like the wise men. And we follow with that wisdom, with that innate wisdom that we have, that star of intuition, to be able to experience it and express it in our lives. And the same way, the shepherding part of us, the loving part of us, the compassionate part of us follows that star, that desire to be, to express, to be like the young man that I talked about, to express our passion. That's the star that we follow. Mary and Joseph, remember they went to the inn and they couldn't get in at the inn. Can you imagine what the conversation might have been from Mary that night? Because Joseph forgot to make a reservation. Can you imagine how that might have been? But they couldn't get in the inn. And what that represents, metaphysically or spiritually, is that sometimes we have challenges in our life. Ever notice? Yeah? We have challenges in our lives. And wouldn't it be great if we could go, woohoo! I got another challenge! Why? Because it is in those challenges that give us the opportunity to call forth our Christ nature and to be the presence of God and Spirit that we are. And whenever our buttons get pushed, it's another hallelujah moment. Because that's a time when, in that moment, we have forgotten the truth of who we are. And we get to remember that I'm the presence of God. I get to be the conscious one in this challenging situation. And to say, yes, Mary, I'm sorry, I forgot to make the reservations. And the manger, the crib where Jesus was born, in this simple stable, represents that it's in the simple situations in life that we discover our truth. Often with our family and with our friends, with our significant others, that we find that our highest calling happens. Ever notice? Isn't it great that we attract wonderful people around us and then they push our buttons and we get to go to that manger in our consciousness and remember the truth of who we are and come and respond out of love. Rumi said this so well. He said, your task is not to seek for love, but merely to seek and find all the barriers within yourself that you have built against it. Your task is not to seek for love. You don't have to look for love, but rather to find all the barriers, all the places within us that we have built against experiencing love. That's where the work is. Wow, can I say here amen? You know, and it's really an awesome thing if we can change our perspective on it and know that in those barriers, that's where the Christ within us is. That's where we discover our truth. That's where we have a breakthrough. That's where we find our passion. That's where we develop our love, our personality, our Christ presence. That's where the star is bringing us to be able to forgive, to be able to love. You know, I believe the reason that we resonate so much and so many with the story of Jesus' birth, and so many people do on this planet, is because we know it's true. Not so much about the birth of Jesus, but it's what that symbolizes to us spiritually as the birth of our Christ self. Elizabeth Kubler-Ross wrote, "People are like stained glass windows. They sparkle and shine when the sun is out. But when the darkness sets in, their true beauty is revealed only if there is a light from within." This light wants to be born in you tonight. This light wants to be born in you. And perhaps that's what brought you into this reality, into this space and time, into this body, into this consciousness, because you are here to be the light of the world. There's a story that I like about a monastery in England. And the monastery was prosperous. And there were many monks in this monastery. And people used to come from all around. This monastery was the center of town. And people would come to this monastery, and they would bring their children, and they would bring their food, and they would share their food, and the children would all play games, and it was a happy place. And then something happened. The monks started to bicker amongst themselves. The buildings and the ground started to deteriorate. And then people started not to come. And the monks died out, all but 5. And it was a sad place. And the abbot didn't know what to do. But he knew he had a friend at a monastery close by. So he walked to this monastery. And when he got there, he saw his friend, this other abbot, and they sat together and they drank tea and they ate. And the first monk told the other monk about what had happened to his monastery. And the second abbot said, "I wish I could help you, but the same thing is happening in my monastery." And the first monk said, "I have to go." And the second abbot said, "Wait a minute, before you go, I just had a realization. It was like God just spoke to me. And what I heard was that the Anointed One, the Christ, is in your monastery. It's one of you." And the first abbot was surprised. And he walked back to his monastery. And when he got there, all of the monks came to him. And they said, "What did the abbot tell you?" And the first abbot said, "It's so curious. What he said was, the Anointed One, the Christ, is here in our monastery." And the monks all looked at each other, barely able to believe it. But in that moment, they started to treat each other with love. They started to respect each other and to love each other. They started to care for the grounds and the building, and they started to take care of them. And the word got out, and more monks came and wanted to be a part of the monastery. And the monastery grew, and people started coming back, and the monastery began to become popular again. And there was activity in the monastery. So what is the message of this story? And the message is that you are the chosen. That you are the chosen one. You are the Christ. We all are the Christ. We are here to be this presence. Every one of us is the Messiah. Everyone bears this idea. Everyone here, all of you, and all of us on this planet are the light of Christmas. My Christmas wish for you is that the child within you, again, becomes enchanted with the light. And that you remember the truth of who you are. You are committed to be that light, to take the energy of this season into your life and reflect this light into everything that you do. Share your passion, share your love, share your Christmas light. The joy of the Christ abides in me, and I am the light of Christmas. Let's say this together. The joy of the Christ abides in me, and I am the light of Christmas. You are the light of Christmas. Welcome to the light. I invite you to close your eyes. And take a deep breath. Breathing into this moment. Imagine that you can breathe into the light in yourself. Breathing in and breathing out. Feeling the warmth of this light embracing you. See this light in every cell and every space, every tissue. See this light all around you. A golden light, a white light. Imagine this light around your heart, moving in your mind, in every thought, every sensation, every feeling. Breathing in, breathing out. Imagine that you can reach in and gently gather any obstacle to love and to embrace it. And to lift it up and to let it go. seeing yourself as the light knows you. Pure, clear, bright. Imagine that this light goes before you into the night of Christmas. And wherever you are, wherever you go, whatever you do, you shine the light. You are the light of Christmas. Breathing in and breathing out. Let's take just a moment in the silence. I invite you to gently bring your awareness back to this moment, giving thanks and opening your eyes whenever you're ready. And so it is.
Where I live, they're all raised